Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. It is FLIC, Family Life in Chaos. My name is Brooke, your host. So, today we're going to talk about a few things. Number one, if you are a Panic at the Disco fan and you have not heard their new album, go for it because it is a wonderful album. I love it. It has brought new life to me in so many different ways. Just the pure I love Brendan Urie's music, and he's an amazing person, and the fact that he's kept Panic at the Disco going this long for so long, it's awesome. And that has been like my obsession for the last 48 hours is that album. And it just I just love his music. It just gives you so much confidence, and it's basically, like, he's wonderful. He grew up Mormon and all that cool stuff. And then he's like, this stuff is not for me. So then he went and made Panic at the Disco and as a band. And he went for it. And it was during the time of, like, Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance, stuff like that. Stuff that was cool when I was, like, middle school, high school. And I loved his stuff then. I love it now. I love it even more now because he's the remaining original member of Panic at the Disco, and he's doing it all himself, and I love it. But anyways, today we're going to talk about reading books. For those of you who do not know, I actually do read. Mainly fiction, because I feel like this world is just too, over something. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's like oh gosh, what do they say? No, what do they say on like movies and stuff like that? Oh, it's so like overworked or something like that. I don't remember. I don't know, that's irrelevant. But it's really late. it's like 12:30 in the morning. And I'm still up because I have told myself that I'm staying on a schedule for my recording, at least the recordings, not necessarily for the postings. That's still willy-nilly, but I've been really trying my hardest to at least record every Saturday. What is it? I'm on like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or something like that. I think that's what I've been doing, and I've been like making sure that I record because if I fall behind, then I'm screwed. So but anyways, to continue, I love to read, like I said, mainly fiction and fantasy. I'm super into fantasy. Vampires, werewolves, magic, elves. The most recent books that I've read is the Elsker Saga by S.T. Bendy. I will definitely have that written below in the show notes. But I fell in love with this book series. I originally started it during a, when, I don't know, like sometimes on Facebook you get these, like, if you're like, you follow Google Play Books and you follow, Amazon or whatever, you get free offers. Well, I was like, okay, cool, like this looks like a pretty cool offer for authors. But it was a series of like a dozen books called Gods and Mortals. And originally I had thought that all of these books were kind of like continuances for different, or written by different authors. That's what I had originally thought. And then I was extremely mistaken when I went to go on to the next book after I finished the first book of the Elsker Saga. And went to the next set of books, and yeah, it went along the same lines. It still went with the Norse gods, but it obviously wasn't the Elsker Saga. So I was like, crap. Then I went to Google Play and I bought this whole book series, and I'm like, this shit better be good. I'm like, that is enough. It better be awesome, because if it's not awesome, I'm going to be so upset. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so upset because I just spent like $5 on a book series that I'm probably only going to read once, which is such a lie because I'm rereading it already as it is again. And keep in mind too, I started reading these books on Thursday. Today's now Saturday. I finished my last book at like noon, and it was like a three series book. Oh, and there was a novella, but the novella was you needed to read the novella first, which I did not do. I read the first book of the actual series, whereas the novella gave you a little bit more of an insight as to what was going to happen in the series. So, or it gave you a little bit more of like an insight of the characters, which would have been a whole lot nicer, but like I said, I did not start off with the book series. I started off with this Gods and Mortals series, and it was really, you know, like I said, I was totally just thrown for a loop with that. So, like I said, I read these books in 3 days, or 2 days, 48 hours roughly. And they were really good. A few of my more positive things about this book so far, of these books, were they were romance novels, but they were not raunchy romance novels. Let me explain. A lot of more like adult romance novels, like when they have like, you know, scenes of intimacy, they are very graphic scenes. I mean, extremely, extremely graphic. This one, it was very clean, in my opinion. First of all, they actually did not, they kept a very strict ruling system, or like they went along with a very good moral setting, which I really liked about this book, because once again, you don't see that in a ton of books either. Normally, once like the people, you know, get together, they get it on. Like these people did not. They waited until they were married, which was wonderful. And her wording was very intimate, but it was not, let's put it this way, they never really went below the belt at all in the entire movie. I'm thinking like, oh yes, this would be a great movie. No, I mean, like for the entire book, they really kept it above the belt. I mean, yeah, you were like touching some butt, but like other than that, you know, like they don't talk about, you know, your sunshine, which is perfectly fine with me. You know, they don't talk about the sunshine and the 2 moons, that's for sure. And you definitely don't talk about a gentleman's, like, kiwis and banana. Like, you just don't talk about it, which is great. And as I'm reading this book, first of all, I'm loving how tasteful it is. Second of all, it really paints a picture for, number one, it puts a new spin on Ragnarok, which is the Norse gods' apocalypse. Everybody has an apocalypse. The Norse gods, they call it like Thor, Frigga, Odin, Sif, like the lady Sif. Yes, I stuttered on that, don't judge me. And it's been a long night, people. But they have a very lovely twist of it, which is you know, they obviously foresaw Ragnarok, which was great. And then what happened was they ended up basically just like giving us mortals in Midgard the description of what they had, and then they made their own stories based on each person, which was fine. But in the book, they put an really nice spin on that, and in the actual Asgardian world, which they do still call it Asgard in the book, she really did follow it very well, and I was very pleased about those situations. Ragnarok had not happened yet, so they were still waiting for their apocalypse, which they knew was going to happen because they have seers that foresee these circumstances. But it was interesting to see that new spin, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously everybody talks about their own beliefs, end of the world, but the fact that theirs hadn't happened yet when in our books it already has happened, that was very interesting to think about. Another thing that I really liked about this was that, like, she definitely put it into a lot of detail, and I say that in the nicest way. Oh, I have like a bug or something on my leg. And I say that in the nicest way possible. She she really does put a lot of detail on it, but one thing I really did not like was that she put way too much in the third book. I feel like there could have been a fourth book, and I still, to the way that they ended it too, I feel like there could have been a fourth book. I feel like there could have been a whole nother series based on these two kids' lives. The two that fell in love, which is Christia and Ul. I just feel like there just could have been so much more, and I really hope that maybe, you know, like, if more people read it or something like that, they can, you know, have her be like, hey, can you, like, you know, give us some more intel here? Can we do some more stuff with them? You know, which is really cool. I think that would be really awesome. By the way, if you guys can hear anything in the background, I very much apologize. Oop, my microphone just fell. I don't know why, but it did. My husband and kids are currently having a movie night upstairs. They are watching Jurassic Park, which, good for them, but it is very loud, and it's really hot up there, so they have to have it loud to hear it over the fans. So I'm not necessarily gonna go up there and just be like, what's wrong with you? Turn it down. I'm not gonna be that mom right now, but it is very loud. I can hear it down here. But anyways, to continue. Another thing that I found that I was really, probably one of the reasons why I was super interested in this book, is it really reminds me of, like, the Twilight series, but in, like, a really less creepy way and a very shortened way, because, like, so the Twilight Saga has 4 books. Yeah, because it has, like, 4 books and 5 movies or something like that. Yeah, because you have Twilight, and then you have the 4th one, but the 4th one in the movies was split into 2, which she totally should have done, but that's not the point. I will get to that in a minute. In the book, you know, Lonely Girl has a weird condition. Christy has a weird condition. She's a seer, so she can see, she has, like, visions. And she goes on a journey. She went from, like, living in, like, Oregon, and then she went over to some school in Wales, which is really cool. But, which is outside of London, I'm assuming, because they just seemed to make it seem like it was very close to London. But when she gets over to the other side of the pond and gets to London, where she spends a good amount of time, you know, girl meets boy, which is Ul. And one thing that is very, very big about this entire book is that she has a very small pendant around her neck that is an heirloom, a family heirloom. And she wears it around her neck because it was from her grandmother, who had died, like, right before she started college a year earlier. And that is a really big thing. Now, Ul is the stepson of Thor. He is considered in this book the god of winter. Not Thor. Ul is the god of winter. Thor is still the god of thunder. But anyways, you know, Christia meets Ul, and Ul automatically does not like her. He is very set aback by her. Believe it or not, you learn later on in the book that their fate is intertwined by another seer. Her name is Elsker, and she foresaw their love. She foresaw their love. She's also a very large seer. She is one of the original 4, or she's considered what they call a Norn, which is a powerful seer that is originally Asgardian. And a lot of times, you know, if they foresee the wrong thing or something like that, they can get banished. And this Norn in particular, Elsker, she was banned. Moving on. They start school at this school in Wales after, you know, Christia meets her friends that are her flatmates. She starts her classes off, realizes Ul is in one of her classes. And he just, like, glares at her the entire time and is just, like, super rude. And he's just so set aback by her. And then, you know, he gives it a try. This, if you guys are not, you know, resembling any of this to any particular movie or book, it is exactly like Twilight so far. I'm going to continue. So, you know, they meet. He decides to, like, flirt and ask for notes, and then, you know, he sweeps her off her feet, takes her out to dinner, you know, just shows her around, this, that, and the other. And, you know, they, like, make out, and it's wonderful for both of them. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And then he, like, ghosts her for, like, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And she's, you know, just, like, in her own little funk. She's like, man, I really thought we had a shot at this, blah, blah, blah. I really, really liked him. And then becomes damsel in distress when her friends try and, like, take her out to, like, a club or something. And these guys are like, hey, babe, and, like, tries to, like, you know, make some moves on her, which is really, really bad. In, like, the bad way. Not like, hey, honey, how are you doing? Let me just buy you a drink. No. They're like, okay, let me take you out back and, like, do some things. No, they're bad people. And suddenly, out of nowhere, haha, where does this sound like? Uhl comes out of nowhere and just kicks butt. I mean, really kicks some butt. And then, of course, you know, Christia is just like, I'm so upset with you. You're the worst. Why did you save me? You ghosted me, blah, blah, blah. Well, she didn't actually use the word ghosted because that's a millennial word. I don't even think ghosted was, like, made yet as a word during these books or whatever. I don't really know how old these books are. But she, you know, she looked at him. She was like, you know what, you suck, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, my gosh, just please give me a chance. And she's like, no. This goes on for almost a month. Now, in, like, the first book, she's a brat. Like, she's a straight up brat. And for, like, how she perceives herself as such, like, a lonely, like, person who like, no one liked her in her former town because she had these visions and everyone thought she was friggin' crazy. You know, no one liked her because of those things. So we're just like, you know, I'm sitting here just like, oh my gosh, for somebody who has the self-esteem of, like, an ant, like, you pretty sure are putting on the big britches today, babe, because you are just, you know, he is gorgeous. He is the love of your life. You love him. He loves you. And you're just like, psh, go away. And I am just so frustrated at this point because I'm just like, stop being a brat. Anyways, to continue. She finally gives him a chance after he just, like, fills her entire flat with flowers for, like, days. And she was just like, fine. So he talks to her, pours his love out to her, blah, blah, blah. He tells her about his real life, like how he is the god of winter, and that his name is Uhl, and that he actually is the stepson of Thor, and these things are real. And she kind of figured that at this point because of her visions, and she finally then starts to see Uhl in her visions and what's going on with them, which is great. And then, you know, once then they start finding out, like, okay, cool, she's a seer. Okay, she has this, like, she knows these people. Their life was fated. They, once again, are just, you know, like, fooling around, just kind of, like, making out at this point in the book. And then, you know, her life is threatened for the first time. She gets into a scuffle with an elf-like figure that is taunting her in her dreams and in her visions, and suddenly she realizes what she can do, which is she grabs the charm around her neck and it protects her in her dreams and in her visions, which is great. On to the second book. They pour their love out for each other once again, and they get engaged. And they're like, oh, cool, we're going to plan this wedding, which they spend that entire stinking book doing. They spend that entire book, like, she meets his two best Asgardian friends, which is Gutter and Inga. I'm pretty sure her name is Inga. I could be completely incorrect, and I would never know because it's Norwegian, and I don't understand Norwegian. So we're just going to go with Inga. And, they spend this entire time, planning out this wedding, and everything is going great, and, she's learning about her new powers, and they're also, in the second book, fighting to find a way to make her an Asgardian, because apparently, because they were fated together, she is going to try to become an Asgardian so she can fight alongside him during Ragnarok, which they know is coming soon. Which is very cool of her, I don't know about you, but I would not jump into, like, cool, I want to live with you forever. After, 3-4 months of me being here, I'm in a completely new place with a completely new everything, with everything is new, and I love you. I'm going to marry you within 3-4 months or something like that. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, even if that means that I am going to become a god and fight alongside of you until the end of your apocalypse. Like, I don't know about you, but that's some serious friggin' commitment to me, and I just couldn't do that stuff. But anyways, to continue. In the second, I'm pretty sure it was the second book. Yeah, in the second book, they talk about how they're going to get, her approval from the family. They talk about how, well, first of all, Inga actually and her become really, really good friends, which is great. And then they talk about how she is going to win over Odin and Thor to make her become an Asgardian. And they also have to impress Inga's grandfather, too. His name is, oh snap, what is his name? It's like Bart, or Barther. I think it's like Barther, something like that. Bather. I can't remember his name to save my life right now. But, yeah, she starts to, but she has to impress these people in order to become an Asgardian. And everything works with Odin and Bather, but then they need Mjolnir in order for her to do the change. And obviously Mjolnir is wielded by Thor, and Thor disapproved. So that sucked. And then a bunch of random things happen, like they go out, or Gunnar and Ull go away for a week, or for a whole week, and they're fighting and they're learning different things about their enemies, and all of a sudden they're starting to become really, just like overwhelmed with what's going on. But Ull really keeps his cool with all of this. He's a very, very level head throughout all of this for the most part. He, what is her name? Christia is now telling Ull about all of her visions. And at the end of book 2, she is attacked by the man portraying himself as an elf. And, he does something to her so that her brain, or her visions, are blocked. She no longer remembers her visions for a little while. And then once she, obviously Thor gave in after he found out that she was a seer, which she has been seeing all of Asgardian's enemies and spying on them, so she can know things about Ragnarok that was not predicted, so they can change their fate. Which is really cool. And, and like I said, he's really level-headed with all of this until he attacks her in her vision to the point where she almost cannot get out of the vision because she had taken off of her necklace. And I'm pretty sure this is in book 2, if not, this is the beginning of book 3. And, she by then is, really shaken about it, but the elf guy informs them that Ull's grandmother, who has been taking care of them when they are not at school, that's mainly just like drama fluff, in the book for a good amount of time, but they are currently, he tells her, I'm going to cast a spell on her and kill her from the inside out. First her soul will die, and then her body will die. And this is for Ull's grandmother. Her name is Aulog. And she's wonderful. She's so sweet in this entire book, or in this entire series. And she's just, like, really rooting for them and, like, helps them in their marriage, or their early onset marriage and whatnot. And Christia then and Ull are going to get married, but the day of their marriage, she is also going to be turning into an Asgardian in the same day. It's going to be part of their wedding ceremony. And the procedure in order to become an Asgardian when you are a Midgardian, a mortal, it is very painful. And She really has a horrible time with it at first. It's actually very scary. She did not inform Ul of her decision. Only her and Inga decided to take care of this ritual with Aulog, the grandmother, and then I feel like her name was Indine, something like that. But she is a healer from Asgard, and she has come to do the ritual to prepare her body to become an Asgardian, which consists of putting a very large needle into her brain and inserting like 3 or 4 different chemicals, and then she then is, physically ready to become an Asgardian, which is really cool. But she obviously needs the magic of Mjolnir in order to fully continue the ritual and become an Asgardian, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But she really struggles through that, which is really hard to read at first because she hasn't really struggled at all through the entire book, other than in her dreams. You see that a lot in her dreams that are also visions. Visions and dreams are the same thing for her, which is interesting. Like, just the way that St. Bende decided to render it written, she did it very well. She was just so extremely descriptive about it. But one thing, like I said, I did not like was that I felt that the third book could have been a whole lot longer, because they put a lot in the last book. Obviously they have their ceremony where she does become an Asgardian and becomes immortal with Ul, and then they decide to honeymoon on an island just like in Twilight, and they just are blissfully free and happy, and they have nothing going on with their lives, and nobody to them is just like threatening them. They're having a great day, they're having a great time. And then they start realizing that Christia cannot remember any of her visions. Like, she gets these really horrible sense of feelings and wakes her up from a dead sleep, and she remembers these feelings of like hatred, fear, disgust, stuff like that, and just like a feeling of like she's unprepared. And after 2 or 3 different times, she realized that, okay, there's something wrong, and then they go back to Yaldir, which is where they spend their time outside of the school in Wales. They go, I think they said it was like 2 hours in Bindi. I think it was Bindi. But anyways, to continue. They go back, they realize when they're there that, the elf guy that is portraying himself as an elf is actually not an elf, it is Loki, and he is getting all of the people from the 9 realms to help in the devastation of taking over Asgard. This whole situation, all of her little visions and whatnot were about Loki and his children attempting to take over Asgard, and how, because the people that the 3 sisters that had predicted their Ragnarok were unsure of what else was going on, because they did not have another seer like Christia to inform them of these things and inform them of these visions. So she was their secret weapon. Well, in the last book, they wed, they go on the honeymoon, and then comes the fun part where Loki tricks her and tries to take her to, I think it was Jotunheim, which is the bad realm where Loki and his wife live and their kids. They they have a bunch of fights and this, that, and the other, and like you see just like Christia almost dies like 2 or 3 different times during a battle, with her and Loki and his guards and Ul. And then, you know, Ul, you know, almost sacrifices his love and his protection for her for that, you know, jeopardizes his own life. And then I think, what was it? She was the one that saved him from Loki. She ended up actually killing Loki after she began to heal finally, after Ul had revived her twice. And she, by then, you know, Loki was trying to have his way with her, just kill her off to make Ul, you know, just like missing his love in his life. And, you know, Loki did not succeed. So, because Christia ended up, like, stabbing him with a branch. And then, like, his body, obviously, he was pretty much dead. And then they put him in an Asgardian cell, which is a big, giant silver bubble. And then they're like, okay, cool, we're going to, all of us, just figure everything out. We're going to shower and take rest, and then all that fun stuff. So that's what they did, and then they fiddled around and, you know, did newlywed things. Then Ul and Christia and Gunnar and Inga, they all were called to Asgard to be seen in front of Odin, which is where Odin had finally decided that Christia could come and go as she pleased from Asgard, and now she was an official Asgardian because she laid down her life for Asgard and she helped turn around Ragnarok, and they all lived, which was great. And that was pretty much the end. That and Elsker, like I don't know if I mentioned, Elsker was a Norn, which is a seer, just like Christia in the book. And she, you know, she starts to predict a few more things, like of the furthering of Christia and Ul's life, like children and things as such. And then they have a little bit more of a history reveal of how Christia actually had Asgardian blood in her veins. There was a Norn that, like I had mentioned before, there are a few that were cast away. Well, there was one in particular that fell in love with a mortal and decided to live a mortal life, and that Asgardian just happened to be her great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. And that is where they got Mjolnir, the pendant, and where she got that specific pendant around her neck. And he also took something called the Healing Stone, and it was gifted to Christia. So it was perfect because then she could protect her future children from Loki, and then she could also heal her loved ones and her family with the Healing Stone. And then they also found out the reason why that she was, you know, seeing and being a seer for Asgard, even when she was immortal, was because she had Asgardian blood. She had a tether to Asgard, which was really cool. That was a really awesome ending. They leave the ending with, like, she was pregnant or something, but, like, they never said the baby name that they picked out. They hinted at it, and then they never said it, and then I was super upset. I'm just super upset at this whole stinking book. Like, it could have been so much longer, and, like, I really hope she revises them eventually and lets them out as, like, an extended version or something like that. Like, that would be friggin' great. But I don't think that's going to happen as much as I want it to. But that is my review of this book. I think it's a great book if you're looking for a really awesome, quick 3-book series plus a novella. I think they're like $5 right now, like $5-ish on Google Play Books. That is where I read all of my books. I buy all of my stuff. I don't have just like a monthly fee because I feel like a lot of authors get really screwed out of those things. So I would definitely recommend the Elsker Saga by T.S. Bende. If you guys want like a little bit more of an in-depth talk, even more of an in-depth talk, I mean, like, I'm going to be putting out some serious spoilers from these books, go ahead and head over to my Patreon. I will have something within the week about this lovely book and how I feel about it and what I really do think about all the symbolism and all about the Norse god-ish stuff in this book, which I am super enjoying of. I love Norse gods. I love their just stories. I think their stories are great. But like I said, if you like my channel, feel free to subscribe or follow or unfollow or whatever and like my stuff. Let me know on my Facebook page, facebook.com/familylifeandchaos, and let me know how that is. I'm currently attempting to fix my Twitter. I haven't figured out how to do that yet still. It may or may not still be just at Housewife Life with Brooke. And just kind of go from there because I don't know how to change it. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you like podcasts like these, give me some feedback. I always need feedback. So yeah. And also, be sure to read. It's summertime, perfect time to start reading. If you're a mom, even if you have a bunch of kids and stuff like that, feel free to just pick up a book. I mean, like, reading and showing that your kids that you're reading a book in front of them, that is great for them because then they're also going to want to read. Deacon and Calvin love reading, and I think that was probably one of the better influences that I have for them is that I do read. So, yep, check out my Patreon. Let me know how you feel about these kinds of blogs. Would you like more book reviews? Because I read a lot of books. And, yeah, let me know how you like my stuff. Give me some feedback and whatnot. So, you guys all have a wonderful day or night or evening or whatever. Have a good something. And I will see you guys at my next podcast. Bye.